All righty, everybody. We are super fortunate to have the Mr. Luke Worthington, celebrity trainer, big hunk, talk to us about the life of a trainer. Got to tell you, Luke, when I first met you at our seminar in Los Angeles, which you're going to be back here in a few weeks, I think my heart skipped a couple beats. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is tall. What are you, 6'3", 6'4"?
6'3", a
Six
little bit.
three, looks the part, talks the part. He has that damn accent. I mean, we're going to talk about looks a little bit here in a second, but we've had some good conversations in the past on what I talk about in my book and how 90% of textbook trainers quit within the first year. And in the UK, it's about 18 months. So what's going
That's right.
on? Why do you think that is?
I think when that statistic's been around for a long time, it gets requoted a lot here as well. And I think really that comes down to the fact it's hard, and it's harder than people think it is. I've been in this industry a long time as of you. 25. This is my 25th year, in fact. So a very long time. So I've seen trends come and go. I've seen some trends come and go 3 or 4 times now. And I've seen the evolution of the industry from what it was, which was certainly not cool back when, through the whole social media boom, the Instagram boom, TikTok, all of that stuff, and it become cool and it become sexy, and everybody wants to do it because they want to be part of something that's growing, which is fantastic. And there's enough to go around. Like it's a big marketplace. There's a lot of people in the world, not very many of them intentionally exercise. So there's a huge cake for everyone to get a slice of. But it's hard work. And I think that's why that attrition rate is so high. Because it's quite easy now to see the glamour side of that. It's quite easy to see, the shiny pictures and the cool videos, and people living a glamorous lifestyle, or what might look like a glamorous lifestyle, and you get your workout gear all the time, and you get to exercise and you get to hang out with beautiful people. But it's not that, and it's definitely not that for a long time. It's a lot of putting the hours in, building up experience, just accruing your knowledge. I know that's something that's quite close to your heart as well, in that when you get your certification as a trainer, I think that's a little bit like passing your driving test. It's a way of saying, well, right now this guy is not dangerous, rather than this guy is great. That's when you start to learn. You get qualified, you start learning at that point, and then you start to build up experience, and then you go.
I think that's what's difficult is a lot of these younger trainers, it could be a generational thing, but they pass a textbook certification and now they think they're qualified. Like I can train anyone. And that's such a big difference between understanding your body versus the human body.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's very similar in the UK, but there is some differences. In the States here, you have, I call them your marketing companies. You have your NASM, your ACE, your ISSA. They're getting in front of people as, oh, this is going to qualify me. It's so far from the truth. I mean, we're reading a textbook thinking you understand how to train actual people. So far from the truth. But in the UK, you do have a little different standards. And so you have something that's called the reps, and you also have different like titles, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So REPS stands for Register of Exercise Professionals. And although in much the same way, it kind of masquerades as being a governing body, but it's a corporation, much the same way as all those businesses you mentioned are in the US. So it fulfills that same role. What it actually does here, the legal power that it has here, is it allows you to get insurance, or allows you to get insurance from itself. So if you're going to go and work with somebody here, you have to be insured, and reps will insure you if you have a reps recognized certificate. So it fulfills that obligation, if that makes sense. There are other ways of getting insurance, but reps don't have any legal power other than that they can then sell you their own insurance products.
That's fascinating because as a gym owner, we have locations in LA and La Jolla. I know that you need insurance. And so that was something that when I was talking to Dr. Waterbury, he's a well-known physical therapist, strength coach. He's like, Chris, stop calling yourself an internship. You got to call yourself a certification because that's what people want. And so, from the
Yeah.
legality standpoint, people think you need the certification, but they tell you that in the UK. So, I'm always fascinated by the political aspect because I had a call with someone from F45, and that owner said that we can't take your certification. They need specifically A, B, C, and D. And I know that's false. And so, that's what's always fascinating to me is that, well, I'm sure that there's a process to get quote unquote improved by reps, but do you even know what that process is in the UK, or is it just writing a check or what?
Funnily enough, I do, because I've done it. I co-wrote the Nike personal training qualification a good few years back, and that is a reps approved certification. So there are some hoops that you jump. It's not a case of writing a check. In fact, there's a check to write, but it's a pretty small one. The process is a case of what they call mapping. So you have a bunch of criteria that needs to be assessed, which is, and then you have to make sure there is something in every field. So that might be, for example, assessing a client's needs, assessing a client's ability. Then it might be, deliver a safe warm up, and you have to show that your process, that you have something in every box. That's kind of what, and this it's a flow chart really that's like several pages long, and it's a bit of an admin headache of just going through all of your material and saying, yeah, that meets that, that meets that. As long as you can do that, as long as you can populate every field, you can then pretty much guarantee get your certification approved.
That's interesting. I'm gonna put that on our bucket list because I know I want to get to London, even though it's kind of crazy there right now. You were talking about it's a whole other
Yes.
conversation, but
Yeah.
that's definitely something that we want to get approved in. Now, with that, there are different levels. Like you're saying, there's a PT3 and a PT4. So, like if you wanted to be a strength coach, there's some different requirements. Is that correct?
Correct. So reps offer or reps approve certifications as level 2, level 3, or level 4. Funnily enough, there's no level 1, which I always found really interesting. Level 2 allows people to teach group exercise, so they'll allow people to teach, an old-fashioned circuit class. Which circuits are still circuits, just has lots of different names now. But you mentioned F45, that kind of environment. So a level 2 certification will allow you to do that, teach groups. Level 3 allows you to do one-on-one, so personal training. Level 4 is what they call speciality training. So that can be strength and conditioning, sport specific training, or it can be like GP referrals, so more of like a rehab or people who might have some kind of clinical pathology as well. So the level 4 is designed for people to work in a more like specialized capacity.
So, if you were to get your level 3, is there any hands-on learning for that, or is it just study a textbook and go?
There's a practical assessment, which is observed delivery of a session. So I wrote and then delivered and assessed the Nike qualification, so pretty familiar with that process. So I had to observe I call them kids, they're adults now, like they're in their 20s, but I still call them kids. I had to observe my kids take a client through a workout, like a small one, like a 10-minute workout, and then sign off that they had done all of the bits. So a similar flow chart of, did they do this? Did they do a needs analysis? Did they do some form of assessment? Did the session have some kind of structure? Did it have a beginning, a middle, and end? Did they explain each of those parts to the client? And then could they match what they delivered to what the client firstly asked for and secondly could do?
That's significantly better here in the States. I mean, they sign up for the test, 120
Yeah.
questions, you pass it, and that's it.
Yeah. So that part is it's good, the fact that exists, but where it has the question mark, as I say, is as long as you have something in each of those fields, you have something you can put in the box, it qualifies. But there's no I suppose filter on what can go in there. So it can be, you could yeah, perhaps it's being facetious, but you could say, right, well, my client wants to lose weight, and you might say, right, well, my solution for that is you're going to do a bunch of handstands and a backward roll. And it's you don't have the ability to say, well, that's kind of a silly answer, that doesn't make sense, because you follow the criteria. You said, well, you asked the question, and you made a note of the response, and then you've designed a workout, and then you've taught that workout. As long as you taught the do a handstand and do a backward roll, you would pass, even though it doesn't necessarily match what the need was. So there's no quality control in that sense of being able to actually deliver a good product. It's just, can you deliver a product?
That's what's great to learn from, specialists like you, because people will ask the question, how do I train celebrities? How do I train this person, that person? Where it's like, it takes time and you got to build your brand. But I mean, your background, you have a degree, advanced degree in movement and internships and a lot of in the trenches, right?
That's right. As I say, it's coming up to my 25th year, and there's that commonly accepted supposition that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert at anything, playing the piano, playing football, whatever it may be. And the difference between people who are successful and less successful is they hit their 10,000 hours earlier because they put the time in, or they put the time in more intently. So in personal training terms, not sure what it's like in your part of the world, but here in most commercial gyms, a trainer is targeted at a minimum of 80 client sessions a month. That's about average. Like, you're doing less than that, you're probably going to be showing the door. Ideally, they want you to do more than that, but that's pretty much what a chain gym will ask of somebody is that as a minimum. So if you're doing 80 a month, to accrue 10,000 hours of practice, that's going to take you 10 years. And that's when I think you can then start to consider yourself an expert. And the only difference really between, person to person, so it doesn't really matter what they do for a job. If they act in movies for a job, or they work in accounts for a job, or they clean toilets for a job, it's still a person. They're still made of the same stuff. So their physiology is the same, and how you might go about it is the same. The only difference is one perhaps has more spending power than another, and along with that, they become more discerning, and there's an expectation of, well, I want somebody who's an expert. I don't want anyone. I want someone who's good and who has a reputation for being good. And if you want to be a good trainer, your reputation for being a good trainer comes from training people, and it comes from training people well and building up a track record of results and doing a good job and not dropping the ball on stuff. So that's where this comes from. It doesn't come from Instagram or a book deal or a blue tick or any of this stuff. Like, that's frills. Like, if you want to work with very discerning people, you need a track record of doing a very good job.
And you said a great thing right there about, basically the ins and out of the profession, and that is professionalism, of which so many trainers lack. It's like, you have a session at 8:00. Well, don't get there at 8:01. Don't get there at 8:00. Get there early. And how many times have you heard maybe clients or other trainers, maybe you've seen it, but trainers showing up late to sessions or canceling on sessions. And then the client's like, well, why the heck am I working with you? I'm coming to you for the accountability, but you can't even do the basic things great.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see that is, you're, as a professional in that sense, this is a service industry. So, I'm selling units of my time. And I tend to try and look at it when I'm working on my schedule. I see it as on even more of a deep level. I'm selling pieces of my life, in 1 hour chunks, and I value that. So I value my life, my time, and if I'm going to sell you that, I'm going to put a premium on that because I value it, and I expect that to be reciprocated, but vice versa. So if I'm selling you a unit of my time, that time starts at 9:00. Like, it starts at 9:00. I can't sell you a unit of my time and then give you less. You wouldn't go to a nice restaurant and order, a great steak, and then they bring it to you and there's like a slice taken out of it, which is effectively what you'd be doing if you show up late to a session. Like you're selling your time, your expertise. So you have to deliver what you're offering. Otherwise, people aren't coming back. I'm not going back to a restaurant that served me a steak with a piece cut off. I'm going to the one that served me a great steak cooked how I like it.
And that's why they're paying for that service too. I mean, the quality of it, and that's fascinating. I like that analogy. I'll definitely use that with my trainers. Uh, what would be some things that you would look for if you were to open up a gym and hire some trainers? If you had your own criteria, not reps, not a textbook certification, what would be some things that you would look for?
So I think that this job is all about it's I use the chef analogy a lot actually. So personal training it's because personal training is quite a young industry. It hasn't been around for that long. Chefs have been around for a very long time. I think it's a great analogy to use. So if you're a private chef, same offering the same kind of service, you would expect to be able to cook for your client what they ask for to a very high standard. And I think that's what personal training, like that's what it is. It's about matching your skills to the client's needs. And it's about what the client wants. And I think what is a huge, there's a problem, for want of a better word. I don't like to kind of like throw negativity on my own industry, but it is a problem, and something that I would be definitely looking out for as a big red flag if I was recruiting trainers is trainers who are dead set on training people the same way they train themselves. And that would be like your chef saying, well, I love macaroni and cheese, so you're getting macaroni and cheese. I'll cook it really, really well, but that's what you're getting. He said, well, I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't like pasta. I don't like cheese. I'm allergic to cheese. Cheese makes me puke. Any of these things, and say, well, you're getting macaroni and cheese. Like that's what I cook. We can't. That is endemic within our industry in London for sure. I don't know whether that's the same issue there. Of I love to work out. This is what I love to do. Therefore, everyone who comes through my doors gets to do what I do because I think it's cool and it worked for me. Therefore, it's going to work for everyone. Firstly, it's not, and secondly, it's not about you. It stops being about you. Coming into, I think you have to love fitness, and I know it's something you want to talk about. You have to love fitness and you have to work out if you want to do this job. But also, if you're doing this job just because you get to work out, it's not, you're kind of missing the point. This job is about other people's workouts. It's about how can you meet somebody where they're at and make fitness work for that person, because that's what they come to you for. If it was easy for them, they wouldn't be there. Like they're there for you for accountability, they're there for you for your expertise, but they're there for you to say, well, can you make this work for me? Because I can't do that on my own. How do I do this? This is what I've got. This is how my body works. Can you help me? And the job of the trainer is, okay, I can meet you where you're at. All right. And I can show you some stuff that you can do. And then when you can do that, we can do some stuff that's a little bit more complex than that. But that's what I look for, is can you meet the client where they're at and show them two things: one, success, and two, progress.
You're a very politically correct guy. I love it because I can not be sometimes. And I'll say things, I love trainers suck. And I say that because I'll interview trainers at high-end gyms, Equinox. I know you have a few in London as well. And I was just talking to a student the other day and I was like, hey, T, if you were to have a trainer at your gym to train your mother, how many trainers would you allow? And this gym had over 20, 30 trainers. He's like, not a single one. And that's unfortunate, I think, because exactly what you're saying is being able to help people, get the results, but you need to be a chameleon. And I was working out here in Santa Monica and one of the Equinox gyms that they have. And I saw a trainer and he's been struggling. And I've talked to his manager about his results and everything. And he had this stereotypical LA girl. I mean, we live in a time where it's, LA has that ostentatiousness. It's just known for being superficial. And this girl was typical, quote unquote, LA skinny. She wanted to grow her ass. You can tell she wanted to tone up. And that's vocabulary our clients are going to use. But he spent 30 minutes bench pressing with her. Now, could she have said, hey, you know what? I really want to get better at bench pressing? Sure. I don't know for a fact. But how many times in your career, Luke, have you had a female come up to you and say, hey, I really want to improve my bench press?
I can tell you, never. I had a few who say I want to do my first pull up. Like it would be super cool if I could do a pull up. It's more likely I would say I would have people say, I really want to get toned arms. How do I do that? And we might then go and work on their pull up and their bench press. But what I'm telling them is, we're working on toning your arms, and this is how you do it. And they say, cool, I'll do that because
Mm-hmm.
I want toned arms. That's about, that's, you say that's you being a chameleon. That's about that's presenting things in a more palatable way. So we're doing tone. This is toned arms workout. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
bench press day.
And I love it when people bitch, oh, there's no such thing as toning. It's like, shut up. Your clients say it, so just play the game.
You know exactly. I mean, you know what it means. I completely agree with you. That I find that infuriating when I see and read these rants of like, oh, there's no such thing as toning. Like I do a massive eye roll when people say toned, and I'm going to write an essay on it and record a big video rant about it. Like, you know what they mean. So if they what your client knows what they mean, you know what they mean. You also know how to deliver that. So why not just deliver what they want rather than spend your time invalidating them and making them feel awful and making them feel like you don't care or listen? How about make them feel heard, validate what they want, and then give it to them?
We were having lunch. I was having a couple of beers. Actually, I think we had a whiskey at Wally's in Santa Monica, and we were having a good conversation because I was almost looking for advice. And I'm like, how do you instruct someone without, coming off as a dick, as a new trainer coming into the industry about, like I was venting. I was like, a lot of trainers come into this thinking that it's okay to be overweight and obese as the professional. And it's such a delicate subject today because you're going to have one end saying, oh, you can't say that, it's against the law. Who knows what we're saying today? It's like, but there's a fine line. Our clients, like you're saying, from the service side, they definitely appreciate the service, but there is something where, I wonder, no pun intended, but I wonder if you would be as successful as you are if you were 75 pounds overweight.
I think that's a really interesting conversation, and I think it is an ongoing conversation, for sure. The short answer is yes, it matters. Whether you think that's right or wrong is a whole other debate, and probably a debate that's going to go on for a very long time, and maybe never be resolved. But the the cold hard truth is, it does matter, and it will factor, even though if only subconsciously, in the decisions that clients make. And those early parts, particularly in commercial gyms, I remember back in the days when I would kind of walk the gym floor, and you're trying to find clients, and the clients don't know you. I mean, now all of my clients come word of mouth, personal recommendation, and it's a very specific niche that I work with, and it's all about the recommendation. If you're in a commercial gym environment and it's high footfall and it's eat what you kill, you got to go out and get them. They don't know which textbooks you read. They don't know which seminars you've attended. They don't know whether you did your internship or you sat at home doing it on your iPad. And a lot of the times clients also don't care. And that's the cold hard truth of that too. They don't really care which courses you attended, what letters you have after your name. They care, can you help me right now? And are we gonna get on? Like, is this going to be a painful hour 3 mornings a week? If it is, I'm out. So do I like you? Can you help me? Probably in that order, to be honest. But to get over that, even to get to that point of them asking themselves the question, do I like you? There's got to be that, okay, this guy or girl can help me. And that's going to come down a lot of the time to a first impression. And so, yeah, it does, unfortunately. And I think it is unfortunate. Like, I would like to think that the world is a less shallow place than it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. And perhaps people like you and I might be out of work if it wasn't so shallow. Because as much as we might like to kind of wax lyrical and bang on about health and health first and all this stuff, ultimately this is an industry driven more by aesthetics than health. Whether you agree with that or not, I wish it was the other way around. In all fairness, but it's not. Aesthetics are and will always be in my opinion, the primary reason why people get into this. It might not be the reason why they stay in, but it's the reason why they get in the first place.
And I just like to play the devil's advocate and stir the bee's nest and really just piss people off on YouTube. But I think you're exactly right. When it comes to the looks, it's like, would you go to a dentist if they have jacked up teeth? No. You're going to go to someone who is representing what you essentially want. Now, with that being said, you could have gone through a really cool transformation and maybe you were 400 pounds and now you're 275 and you're going to be able to be very relatable to a specific population. So don't let this like break your bubble of becoming a professional in this industry. It can absolutely happen, but I will challenge you. Are you in the best shape of your life? And if you're not, what are you doing to get there? Do you have a trainer?
Yeah.
Are you learning from the best and putting that intensity on yourself? But then, like you were mentioning, being in gyms, I've been in gyms, and some of the more successful trainers that I've seen will have the people skills. So they do go hand in hand. And as I release my
Yeah.
second book here, right around when our seminar is going to be, I talk about most trainers, they don't have the trade skills. So they don't know how to do it on other bodies. They don't have the business skills, and then they don't have the people skills. And so it's not just one, it's you're going to be well more suited for long-term sustainability in this industry if you have them all.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. They all are important. They have different levels of relative importance as I think you go through your career for sure. But you're correct. They are all important. I would say that in all fairness, somebody who's gone through a major transformation on themselves will appear very relatable to a lot of clients. If excuse me, if weight loss is a goal, somebody who's gone through a weight loss transformation themselves successfully is going to immediately appear accessible, relatable to that client or that, and that potential client. They're going to think, wow, this guy gets it. This girl gets it. They've done it. They've been where I was and they are where I want to be. Even that, it may be that trainer, it may be a sample size of one, and they might have done something really obscure that only worked on themselves and wouldn't work on somebody else. That's where the technical skills start to come into it. But at least they're in the doorway. The conversation is happening then, and they're probably going to get given a shot. If somebody has not been through that process and somebody is wanting to embark on that, it's maybe a little more tricky. And certainly I've come across clients over the years who've been a little intimidated by that, who may be particularly, they may be struggling with their weight, with their self-confidence, and they might see somebody who is, body beautiful and has always been body beautiful and was born that way, and think they just don't get it. How are they going to get the fact that it's life for me is different to how it is for them? So I think that there is a flip side to that. It might be aspirational. I think I would love to look like this person one day, but they don't understand me. They're never going to understand me. This person might have fantastic people skills and be hugely empathetic, but they might face that obstacle from the get-go. People who've got themselves better at something, whether it's better at a sporting skill or got themselves stronger or become fantastic at running or rock climbing or really transform their aesthetic, they'll have an advantage, I think, in that first instance of making contact with somebody.
Now, I remember when you said this to me because I was in awe and I had to think on it. And I finally understand why you said this. But I said a big problem here in the States is that a lot of trainers have, resting bitch face or dick face. And you experience that a lot. And you're like, no, LA people are super nice. And I thought that was hilarious, but I'm like, dude, it's because you're so tall and good looking and you have a great accent. That's why everyone's so nice to you. But I think a lot of people would be better off smiling more and being presentable, because if you do really look the part and you're walking around with your arms crossed or holding your cup of coffee or on your phone, or you don't look approachable, that person who went through that transformation, they could just be smiling and be very likable. And that's why they're getting a big book of business.
Yeah. Well, what I always say to people, I've had periods of time where I've managed teams of trainers, recruited teams of trainers, trained teams of trainers, and sometimes you'll hear bitching and moaning in like staff rooms and rec rooms and all this stuff. Say, well, that guy, he's not like what he delivers. It's not that great. Like he's got no. There's no technique behind what he's doing, and he's the busiest guy. Like I hate him, and he's got a shit product. Well, it's quite easy to jump on board with that and jump on board of trying to be of being bitchy and feeling hard done by about it, but it'd be more constructive to ask yourself the question, well, why is he busy? What's he doing right to get busy? Maybe he's super approachable, maybe he's super friendly, maybe he's able to sell some dream that might be an impossible dream, but maybe he's doing something. And I think I'm sure it was the same over there as it was here. When the CrossFit boom happened a few years ago, a couple of years before COVID, and it was super, super popular. Those gyms were opening up everywhere, and there was like CrossFit style workouts happening everywhere as well. And people love to jump on it and go, yeah, but it's shit. Everyone gets injured, and there's no coaching. All of which I agree is true as well. But wouldn't it be more constructive to think, well, what are they doing so well to be so popular? And the answer to that question was what they were doing super well was building communities and building connectivity between people, and you're all part of this same team workout, and you're doing the same team workout in your gym in LA as you're doing in my gym in London, and we're going to do it at the same time, and we're going to look at each other's scores. Like they were way ahead of the curve with that. They were doing that way before Peloton were doing that, before Nike were doing that, before Apple were doing that. Like they had something that connected people, and ultimately people love feeling part of something, and they had that cracked. Yeah, fine. It was in a product that might be injuring a ton of people and getting them to do loads of inappropriate exercise really badly, but they were selling and they were doing super well. Now other stuff is popular right now here and there. Reformer Pilates is having a real moment. It's having the same moment that CrossFit was having. It'll go the same way that other trends have come and gone. It'll come again in a few years' time. Right now, it's having a bit of a moment. And you can always learn something. If something is popular, rather than think, well, it's not my thing, so it's not cool, so I don't like it. I think it's more constructive. So, well, why is that popular right now? What are they doing? So I had a conversation with this is going to sound like it's not related, but it is, with someone a few weeks ago, and we were talking about. We're talking about an example of this, of like things coming in and out of fashion, things coming in trend, and how do you keep on top of that? And ultimately, my view on that is you don't have to. You just have to be yourself and be the best version of yourself. And whatever it is that you do, be really good at that. Because in this industry, trends come and go. Like a couple of years, something's in the spotlight, then something else, and that's just how it is. And it goes around in circles, and it will go around in circles again and again and again. So if you focus on being the absolute best at what you do, your time in the sun will come. It'll go again, but it will come. And when it comes, if you're the guy or girl for that, that's your moment. And then you grab it with both hands and you make the most of it, because it will not last forever. Then something else will. If you're always trying to catch up and you're saying, right, well, I'm all about CrossFit, and then this year I'm all about Pilates, and next year I'm all about kettlebell training, and then I'm about, functional strength, whatever it may be, you're always behind the curve. You're always playing catch up. Something's cool, and then you try and learn it, and then try and market yourself as that. By the time you've got good at it, the trend's moved on to something else, and you're always that guy who's just a little bit behind. If you're focusing on being the absolute best at the thing that you do, then by the time that comes, it becomes cool, you're the guy. And there's a great example of this that's not related to our industry, which is, the Marvel hero Black Panther.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who was, and Black Panther now everybody knows because it's had he's had two successful movies, two huge movies. Before those movies were made, Black Panther was a Marvel character. He was quite a minor one. He had like a few comic books and that was it. But there was a guy who was in LA who loved Black Panther when Black Panther wasn't cool, and bought all the merchandise, and he had the domain names. He had the domain names for fan sites and a YouTube channel because he loved that character. He was obsessed with that character and had all of this stuff. And it was worthless. Like, you're spending all of his money on this original merchandise, and it had no value. Because you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Then many years later, when that first movie was released, and for a minute, Black Panther became the most popular superhero in the world, this guy made an absolute fortune because he had all that stuff. He was the Black Panther guy, and he knew everything about the backstories of all the characters, and he had the domain names of the websites, he had the Twitter handles, he had the Instagram handles, and he had original stuff from when it was first made. That was his moment. He was the Black Panther guy. That was a super cool thing for a while. Now it's Barbie, but I think it's a great example of, you have a thing that you're passionate about, go all in, on that, and wait for your moment. And if it comes, fantastic, you'll be the guy. If it doesn't come, or it doesn't come for 10 years, you're still just doing something that you really love. So that's as bad as it gets. The worst outcome of that is you spent a lot of time getting really good at something that makes you super happy and helps people. Like, you don't lose. So that's always my advice about trends and trying to keep on top of things and trying to keep ahead of things. It's like, just don't do that. Do yourself really, really well.
And like you said earlier, how you'll be a lot closer to those 10,000 hours too.
Exactly. Yeah. Rather than you do 500 hours in 20 different disciplines, do your 10,000 at the part. This is a huge industry with lots of different facets. And when you find the thing that you really love, like, go all in.
What would be the equivalent of a Walmart in the UK?
So Walmart sells everything, doesn't it? From like milk to guns.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I love the that perception of America. That's great. Yeah, it's true though. I mean, a lot of Walmart potentially. Yep.
Yeah. Well, what would it be? It would probably be like a home base.
Okay, so I love the story of Sam Walton. He was the original founder of all the Walmarts, and he would take his C-suite team, and he would get in his little planes, and they would fly around to convenience stores, and they would check out these convenience stores, and he would come out with his team and be like, "What did you notice? What did you tell me about your observations?" And a lot of them were very negative and critiquing. And did you see that aisle? And they were very pessimistic on that store. And then he said, "But did you see aisle 5? And did you notice how they did this very well?" We got to incorporate that into our stories. And so, kind of like what you're saying, don't get bitter, get better. What can you take from the industry that's doing really well right now and observe it? I love it when people bitch and complain about CrossFit, but then I'll ask them, have you ever been to a class? Maybe we can learn something from it. That community that they've fostered is amazing. So how's your community with your clients? Are they showing up weekly to, social hours or whatever? It's like, you can build that same camaraderie if you have a better mindset with that. And so I just wanted to end off on, real quickly, elevator pitch, the most difficult thing training some high-end clients or some celebrities. What would you say that would be?
The most difficult thing I found, or the most difficult thing I found really is not being like, as we said right at the start, if somebody is a movie star, if somebody cleans toilets, they have the same physiology. Their bodies work the same way. It's just they use them for different stuff. So the important thing in all clients really is almost seeing through all of the stuff and seeing the constituent parts of that human being and thinking, well, what's going on here? How does this work? How can we make that work better? And is your goal to kick a ball? Is it to look beautiful on stage or screen? Or is it to get out of bed without things hurting? But how do I get this body working better? That's what we do. That's what we do as trainers, no matter whether you do that on a Pilates bed, or you do it with a kettlebell, you do it with a barbell, you do it with some crazy club thing, like whatever. Like that's what we're all trying to do. That's what we all should be doing. And if you genuinely believe that, I think it comes across. And ultimately, if somebody's looking for somebody who's fantastic on a Pilates bed, someone who's fantastic with a barbell, whatever, and you're one of those things, you'll have them. If they're looking to do Indian clubs and you work with barbells, like you're not going to win. Like, someone wants to buy bananas and you're selling ice cream, like you might have some fantastic ice cream, but they want bananas. Like sometimes it's going to come down to that.
I'm really excited to see you again here in a couple of weeks. Why don't you tell us, the listeners out there, what to expect for that seminar Saturday, the 26th in Los Angeles? And if you're not in the area, stop using those excuses. Fly your ass out here. Meet Luke. You'll learn a ton of information. So, what are some things that they're going to get from that in-person live seminar?
Yeah, so the seminars and all my seminars really are really built around the first part of what we try and do as a trainer, which is that meet the client where they're at. So there's a lot, and I go really deep on the assessment side of things. Quite often, a client comes to you, they'll have a real good idea of where their point B is. Like fitness is getting somebody from point A to point B, whether that's bigger, faster, stronger, looking different, whatever. That's what we deliver. Now we got much more of a chance to deliver in someone's point B, which is their goal, which is why they walk through the door, if we know where their point A is. Right? And I double down a lot on that, because then you can make it work and you make that journey work. So I double down a lot on the assessment, how to develop your own assessment protocol, how to, more importantly, then make the program fit the assessment. There's only so much, the only use of gathering information is if you do something with it. So I go deep on how to match the program to the assessment. And then also in this particular one, I want to go quite in on how to ask questions, how to get that information from your client. How do you build rapport? How do you build buy-in? How do you communicate with someone on their level and try and understand what their real motivation is? There's a big difference between a goal and motivation. And if you can understand the second one of those, you can understand the motivation. Motivation has an emotional component, and if you can get hold of that, you've got them. And it's not. I don't like the word selling. I know that's like gyms need to use the word selling, and it's in it. I guess there is a process of that in that you want to be successful, but really, if you just want to sell something, you don't care what the quality of it is. Like, go and sell car insurance. Sell some other shit that people don't really need. If you don't really care about the quality, you just want to sell and make money. Don't sell like terrible fitness, because you won't make money, and you won't be in it for very long. Like, if you care about the quality of what you offer, it's got to match. So I go deep on making it match. Like, how do you meet the person where they're at and give them what they firstly want and secondly need?
Always be closing is what people say, but I like always be helping, because if you're helping your clients,
exactly,
then you'll be great. Yeah. Well, you can find this big hunk on Instagram, Luke Worthington, big blue check mark, and a bunch of clients who you're helping. One of the best trainers out there. So you guys go follow him, and hopefully we'll see you in LA August 26th. And I really appreciate your time today, Luke. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to coming out there again.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect timing, because